I'm reading from the book All the Women of the Bible, and we're reading the story today, Eve and the Charm of the Plausible Stranger. This is part 2. Later, when the crusting flood of their joy had broken and floated them gently back to speech, the woman said, "Oh, I understand now. I see how we are one, body and soul, even when we are apart." "That's because of the Spirit," the man replied. "The breath the Lord God breathed into us when he made us. It lets us remember our joining and live in the love that brought us together no matter what we're doing." "Are you hungry?" he added. "I'm starving." "Yes, but what are we to eat?" "Not those worms, I hope." No, her husband laughed. "The Lord God said that we could eat the fruit of any tree in the garden, except, of course, the tree of the command." "What command?" "That the only tree that we may not eat of is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For he said, 'On the day you eat it, you shall most surely die.' It's the tree in the middle of the garden, next to the tree of life." "I wonder why," she said thoughtfully. "Because we'll die, of course. We won't be alive anymore. That's why," he replied impatiently. "No," said his wife. "That's not what I meant. Obviously, we're not going to eat it if we're going to die. But why would a tree of knowledge kill us? Knowledge is good. And why would he put a tree that could kill us in our garden? Why would he make it at all?" "I don't know," her husband answered. "But in the first place, it's not really our garden. It's his. We're only caretakers. And then, I'm not the Lord God. I'm sure he has his reasons, and at least he warned us. The tree evidently has to be where it is, and we have to care for it along with all the other plants without touching it or eating its fruit. That really shouldn't be hard. Wait till I show you all the other fruit trees there are, and the nuts we can gather, and all the vegetables that will feed us full. We won't ever be hungry. We don't need to eat the fruit of that tree. Here, try this plum." The woman accepted the golden fruit from her husband and bit into it. Juice ran down her chin and she squealed with delight. "Oh!" she exclaimed when she had swallowed the fruit. "This is wonderful. Are there any more?" "As many as you want," he assured her. "And there are grapes. Here, try them." They ate until they were full, and the subject of the tree of knowledge and good and evil was not raised again. But the woman thought about it off and on, wondering. Days and nights in the garden soon took on their own rhythm. The man and his wife woke early, tended the plants and trees in the garden, swam in the river, and made friends with the animals, even the ones we call wild. They ate and slept and joined in love and knew all manner of delights. Best of all, the Lord God came to walk and talk with them in the garden in the cool evenings, answering their questions and assuring them of his love just by his presence and his interest in their discoveries and their labors. The woman still thought about the tree and wondered, but less often and with less urgency. She did not, however, speak of it either to her husband or to the Lord God. One day, when her husband was working across the garden and she was working alone, the woman encountered a serpent who asked her, "Is it true that the Lord God told you not to eat from the fruit from the trees in the garden?" The woman laughed. "Of course not," she said. "We're allowed to eat fruit from any tree in the garden, except from that one in the middle. The Lord God says if we do, we'll die." The serpent laughed. "Silly, you're not going to die. God told you that because he knows that if you do eat the fruit of that tree, you'll be like gods. You'll know good and evil." The silence was electric. The serpent's words had opened a door in the woman's mind through which enticing light flowed. Knowledge? Not just learning things, the essence of knowing. To know good and evil with that knowledge would be to decide for herself what was good and what was evil, and to make that be reality. It would be to have power, to become power. They would be like gods. Maybe even be gods. She caught her breath and looked again at the tree. Her eyes were drawn by the tree's fruit, which seemed to glow. Her hand reached toward it until her fingers almost touched its ruby skin. It would taste wonderful, she knew, for everything in the garden did. But more, it would give her and the man that one thing they lacked, the knowledge or power that would raise them beyond themselves. Her fingers touched the fruit and plucked it, then took a second and the third. She raised the first piece to her lips and bit into it, just as the man appeared beside her. His eyes opened wide as he realized what she was doing. He opened his mouth to speak, but could find no words. "Here," said the woman, giving her husband the dripping fruit from which she had just eaten a piece. "Eat this. It's the most wonderful thing I've ever eaten. And see, I haven't died. The serpent was right. He said we wouldn't. Oh, hurry. The fruit will give us knowledge beyond anything we have ever imagined. Wait till I tell you. Hurry, eat with me." Stunned by his wife's boldness and by the fact that she was very much alive and drawn by the beauty of the fruit, the marvelous aroma from its bitten, dripping flesh, and the promise of this wondrous knowledge, the man ate. The light in the garden changed subtly for them then. The sweetness of the fruit faded. The sunlight turned brassy. The bird song grew shrill, and discomfort announced itself. And then, looking at the man, the woman realized that she was naked. She began to blush, turning away from him and dropping the remaining pieces of fruit to hide herself with her hands. As she did so, the man gasped, awareness of his own nakedness flooding over him in shame, and he turned from her. There was an uncomfortable silence. "What do we do now?" she asked him at last. "Cover ourselves," he replied. "It's getting late. The Lord God will be coming to the garden soon. We'll have to hurry." "Let's deal with the covering first," she said. "Then you figure out what we can say to him." Looking around, she saw the fig tree. "Here, help me gather some fig leaves. We can make loincloths out of them if we sew just a couple of them together." I'm going to run out of time, so we're going to go to part 3 of Eve and the Charms of the Plausible Stranger.